Welcome to the FRCL Weekly Call. We're a group of distribution leads who get together regularly to discuss works in progress, share ideas, and create opportunities for cross-distro collaboration.
Away we go. Hey everybody, it is the 15th of April. I need to pay my taxes. And also, today we are here to talk about PURLs. So if you are new here, the body that is here is largely composed of leads in the Fedora, RHEL, and CentOS space. And we're here to talk about things of shared interest where we think we should collaborate on some on these things. So our goal is to bring stuff up that isn't finalized, that isn't fully decided, and we want to bring stuff up here so that we can actually do things together, because that's a thing that doesn't just happen automatically. We need to create opportunities. So that is why we're here. And today the topic was brought up by Fabio to discuss using PURLs to improve package metadata and hopefully make security bug tracking and filing more reliable. We are joined by a couple of folks from Red Hat's product security team that focuses on the RHEL side of things. And Fabio, do you want to kick us off? Tell us about PURLs and what's the big idea?
Yeah, hey everyone. I actually made one slide. If I can share that, that would be great.
Yeah, please.
Does this work? I don't know. I've never used this with Google Meet. Oh, it works. Okay, great. Basically, this is the whole problem statement. How do we triage a report for a security issue and how that flows into how it's addressed, package updates, etc. And as I see it, the whole thing should basically be like a funnel from how do we determine what is affected. And right now it's not like a funnel, but more like a fire hose. And that doesn't quite work. Let me explain the slide real quick. Basically, it should be a flowchart, but I've never made a flowchart. So first decision is basically which packages are affected by this vulnerability. And I mean, right now, that's basically the step at which the process already breaks down, because we should only get bugs reported for packages that are affected by a vulnerability. Second step would be, is the version that we ship actually vulnerable? And of course, we shouldn't get bug reports for versions that are not vulnerable. And the third step, it would be, is the package as built or as configured actually vulnerable? And basically, that should be a funnel where at each step, the number of affected packages goes down, but that's currently not working. So right now, the first dotted line up here, I think you can see my mouse pointer.
Yes, we can see it.
Yeah, the first dotted line is basically, above this is where Red Hat Product Security does the triage. And below this dotted line is where package managers are expected to do the triage. And right now, that's basically all three decisions need to be made by the package maintainers because the bundle isn't working. And ideally, if we had better matching between projects and packages and metadata and which versions are affected and which aren't, that would be the dotted line down here. So the triage that happens on the security team side could be, with some help or better metadata or automation, be pushed down here so that package maintainers actually only have to check the important stuff that can't be automated, basically. So the package includes the vulnerable software and the version is affected, but the question that's usually left to the package maintainer is to determine, is this actually relevant? So like, is the code path even executed in our circumstances, or is this software that's included in the sources but not shipped in the build packages and stuff like that? So I don't expect the security team to do all of that determination. That basically always will fall on the package maintainer, but the whole stuff that should happen before that currently also falls onto the package maintainers, and it really doesn't need to. So, and the pro stuff, yeah, sure, we can.
Just to note and answer the questions, because me and John here are from the ProdSec Red Hat security team, and we are the ones filing trackers. I'm no longer filing trackers, but I was filing trackers until last month. So yeah, basically, first thing, it's the source of the truth. Trash in, trash out. We are using the manifest that is specified here. Currently, the browser download will time out because the manifest is built every time you click the button. This needs to be reworked, but if you curl it, you can download the manifest.
No, I can't. That server is Red Hat internal.
Oh, this should be public.
No.
Okay, I can share it with you. So first thing is, if the affected version range is not present at the time of analysis, the tracker is filled because we don't have the information what's the affected range. Second thing is, some of the packages don't have the version specified when we query them. So it's just the name of the package and no version. We file tracker for it because better be safe than sorry. So this can create overhead, yes. And third part is human error. Yes, we agree that we sometimes create incorrect trackers, but this is the same as for Red Hat internal trackers, that it's better for the maintainers to close the tracker as not affected, not shipped, etc., than to miss it. So correct me if I'm wrong, John, but this is what we are doing, and please fill out if I'm missing something.
No, that's accurate. I would just say that our tooling is not really designed for precision as well.
And yeah, we are currently working on the improvements. You all specified the requirements you have for us, how to improve this process. We are currently working on it. We are discussing how to proceed. And like I said, the main core of what we are doing is the manifest we are using. And if the manifest is not up to date with what you are shipping, or some part of the information is missing, for us, it's not like feasible to go out and for each version try to check if it's actually affected or not, or if it is shipped or not. So that's how we approach it. I'm not saying it's optimal or is it in a great health, but we are working on improvements, and yeah, we understand the pain point you are presenting.
Okay, yeah, so I mean, basically my whole point is, would it help you if we added better metadata? So the data source is
only have the metadata. We don't have anything else. We have one source file which we use, and that's all we have. So 4 in total, 2 for Fedora 2 versions and 2 for Apple, and that's all we base our source from. Yes, Brendan?
Yeah, so I take Fabio's question to be something like the following. Hey, this is a problem that all 3 distributions are having to manage CVEs, and actually knowing what's going on with any individual package vis-a-vis any individual CVE, there's a lot of work that goes into that. Can we reduce some of that work by having more information carried per package? Fabio, is that the basic idea? Let's yes. Get a richer environment out that people can work from.
Yeah.
That sounds like a fantastic thing to me who doesn't know anything. But ProdSec team, what do you have the data that you need, or like is it that we don't have places to store the data, or is it that there are just a lot of question marks because it never got filled in?
I would say it's probably both from my perspective. Enriching the metadata about any given project is absolutely going to help. There's a secondary, so there are basically two problems here. What is any given CVE talking about, or other advisory? The advisories tend to be very metadata poor right now, with a few exceptions. That's a lot of what ProdSec does, is try to fill in that gap. And then on the other hand, there's the question of what does any given project have internal to it? And yet we have this whole manifesting system, and there are certainly bugs in that. And so cleaning that up would also help. I don't have great visibility into the depth of that, but long story short, yes, better data would help.
All right, go ahead, Michael.
Just to add to that, we acknowledge that the trackers were lacking the details when we migrated to some new internal changes, and we are working on a fix. It is currently being tracked. I'm not going to share the ticket because it's internal GR, so for the folks who are not at Red Hat, it wouldn't point to anything. So yes, we acknowledge that there are a lot of information missing in the trackers. We are going to improve it. We are going to share everything we have with the Fedora folks. So everything we receive will be in the tracker. So you can do the decision afterwards, and you don't have to like scrape for the details on the internet. So we will do that. This was also mentioned in the requirements document. And yeah, we are here to help you, to work with you. We are not working against you. So we, like I said, are actively working on improvements for this process.
Okay, cool. I feel like we're in the midst of the classic engineering situation where we have a problem and we have a solution. We're like, is this a solution to this particular problem? So Fabio has suggested using the package URL specification as a way of providing more of the requisite metadata. Fabio, can you talk about this a little bit? Like, what problem does this actually solve? And then we can ask proxy security, is this the problem that you need solved? Like, let's see if we've got a compatible solution to this problem.
Yeah, as I see it, we currently have metadata for which packages include what software, but it's not standardized. So usually each language ecosystem uses their own format for specifying, hey, this is a Python package, it includes this this project from PyPy. Or this is a Rust crate, it includes this crate from crates.io. And the format is not standardized across those languages and ecosystems. And like for C and C++ projects, that's a whole different problems space, because there's no centralized registry where with a shared namespace. So identifying projects is even more difficult. But at least for ecosystems where there is a defined way to identify projects, we could use those identifiers and attach them to the packages. So mapping between project and package becomes like a repo query. And that should hopefully improve the problem of, is this software included in any package?
Yeah, for anyone who's not looking at the screen, John is nodding vigorously, and he gave a thumbs up.
Yeah, no, I agree. The thing in the back of my mind then is laying out what's in a project is step one. One of the bugs I'm aware of with our manifesting system is that I think it's build time dependencies get included. And so there have been a number of NPM JavaScript projects which have matched against Firefox in the Fedora project that I've filed. And if you're not familiar with the project, it's sort of like yeah, sure, this looks fine. But that's essentially a tooling improvement we need to make to break out those build dependencies from the actual product itself. So,
one question. In the requirements document, Kevin Fancy specified that by PURL he meant persistent uniform resource locator, but right now we're talking about package URLs. It's same have the PURL like shortcut, but to be clear, are we talking about package URLs, no persistent uniform resource locators?
Yes, it's about package URLs, not about the persistent something.
Because this is the link he put into the requirements document that.
Yeah, that's the wrong one.
Okay, sorry. Because we got confused when we were talking about it with the tooling team, that what they meant by the persistent uniform resource locators. Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, go ahead, Michelle.
Yeah, for the JavaScript issue, like that's mentioned, it's not just build tooling. Like there are projects. I maintain some projects where the JavaScript file is just because the source table actually has the documentation file as well. So it's just website code, not used in the build at all and not shipped at all, and they show up. So the other really weird issue that we find is that sometimes bugs are filed against totally unrelated packages because it looks like it's just a substring match. So if your project name or project URL happen to have, like it's a superstring of like of the component that has CV, then you get bugs filed as well.
yeah, I'll admit I don't know how any of the manifesting tooling works. I just use it.
Of course, I muted. It seems like the PURL might actually help with this, right? Because we will actually have a real list of what is actually included in the thing that we shipped. And everybody should have, because this sounds absolutely amazing. I remember from back when I was package maintainer that I also received a bunch of security issues, which has nothing to do with the JavaScript that I was maintaining. It's just that it happens. That's how it goes. Like everybody does mistakes. Like it's just that. Okay, so if we start to including the PURL data in all of the platform-specific packages in Fedora, how long would it take for you guys to pick it up? Estimation. I'm not asking you about anything. I'm not asking you about anything like that you will submit to. It's just like so you have a lot of stuff to do, or do you have like spare cycles once per month or 2 months to spend some time on it? Or?
To answer the question partially, we've been already using PURLs for internal Red Hat components for I think at least a year or more or longer. So the support is there. Our tooling already supported. For Fedora right now, the field is empty. So the backend support is there. To integrate it into process would require some work, I think. I'm not fully onboarded tooling guy. I worked on it, but I'm not very keen on PURLs and how the processing works. But at the background, it is already like developed for internal components and projects. So I don't think the barrier is there. I think it just needs some fine-tuning and maybe some beta testing to see how it works. Maybe Lukasz have some more information about how PURL works because he was working in the packaging team. But yeah.
So I have a related question to Tomáš's question, which is, so right now we are, at least in the Fedora space, at 0 on this. What does an actual rollout look like? So picture like 10 years from now, everything has PURLs attached, like whether it be Fedora, RHEL, CentOS, Stream, like that metadata is just filled in everywhere. Where's the first place that we have to do this? And what does the progression through the system look like? Go ahead, Fabio.
So as far as I can tell, for most language ecosystems, this could be mostly automated at like the RPM machinery level. So like PyPI packages and Rust crates and Ruby gems, they all already have some kind of automatic generation of RPM metadata, and adapting those generators to also output metadata in the PURL format should be mostly straightforward and could be done in a centralized location. And after the next mass rebuild, all packages should have the metadata. So that's you make the changes in the tooling for the RPM packages, and it should like affect packages after the next rebuild.
Okay, so the context for FRCL here is like, we could do this in Fedora right now, and it could be like a F45 change request. We could do it, and then it's there. But then if proc security doesn't take advantage of it, why did we do that, right? That's the basic idea. All right, so by that same token, if we do it in Fedora now, that's going to feed into RHEL 11 development, right? Like, so that would be, that's probably something that's going to be relevant later this year, based on our 3-year schedule. So that'd be, sounds like a cool feature to have in RHEL 11, actually. Like lots of win here. Would there, so proc security team, if you had this for something like RHEL 11, would you be pining for it in like RHEL 10 and 9? Like, would we be backporting this information?
That's a question I think above us, to be perfectly honest. I'm pining for this constantly, like just myself. I will say there's one more piece of the puzzle that I think has been left out here, which is the actual advisory data. So when a CV is published or other advisory, if that itself had proper package metadata, that would make all of this much easier as well. When we're in the space where we're trying to determine what is the affected internal component, if it's a glibc or some Python package or whatever, there can be fuzziness introduced to the system there as well. So if any of you are publishing advisories, the PURL spec's already in the CVE spec, so yeah, feel free to start using that.
Go ahead, Michelle.
Yeah, 2 things. Yeah, like if we automatically generate this in RPM, the problem with older RHEL releases is that you basically have to rebuild the world to pick up the new metadata, right? Or you might be able to rely on basically do a rebuild, don't publish because you don't need to, but just capture the information somewhere. So just or maybe we can make a way to like run the generators on existing packages. So it's just that new packages have everything built in that you can query with DNF. And as for like how good the CVE data is, yeah, like I have a tool that I'm using to basically triage the CVE is currently filed, and there's a lot of nightmarish heuristics going on sometimes when you cannot easily determine a component because yeah, like the upstream might not be good enough. So I can share the link to the code so you can look at the horrible nightmare it's doing right now, but it is possible to get more or less correct attribution most of the time. It's just painful.
Yeah, please share.
Yeah, so I just wanted to showcase how it might look like because we already have it. So I will share my screen for a second. So I will make this bigger. So basically, this is the tooling we use, new CLI, and I search for binutils, just a random package. And as you can see, for example, for RHEL 10, we already have the package URL PURL here, you see. So right now, it matched the keyword. I didn't use the full package URL, but binutils is also shipped in Fedora, but you see it's also present there. So I think we already are capturing it in some way. but I'm not sure. I would need to talk with the tooling guys.
This looks like it's identifying the RPM package. As
Oh
you-
yeah. This would be added later, but yeah, I would need to specify one more like switch. But yeah, this is what we work for. So we can, like, because you mentioned you would need to rebuild everything back, but we can start from one point and go forward, and the matching will also match the older ones based just on the package name, with the risk that it might not be like the most correct one. This was just a side question. I saw somebody had his hand up, maybe? No? Yeah.
No, I got a question. All right, so pointy-haired manager here. When I was a more technical lad, I wrote spec files, and so I understand this conversation in terms of spec files. But containers are a much more prominent thing these days than they were when they didn't exist. So how does this relate to container delivery and the problems that we experience with CVEs at a container kind of distribution? Go ahead, Fabio.
So I think in theory, you could add a build step to the container pipeline that captures all the information from the installed packages and puts that into some kind of manifest. And that should basically tell you what's inside the container. I mean, that's basically an SBOM, right? Yeah.
Okay, so Fabio, you brought the topic here, and here's what I'm hearing. I want to see if this is what you're hearing also. It sounds like if Fedora decides to do something along these lines, then product security would definitely take advantage of the thing that we did, and that might improve the status quo for packagers in Fedora. Does that sound right to everybody?
From the product security side, I'm not going to say we're committing to that, because I don't think anyone on this call has that authority.
Well, you'd like to.
Everyone on the call would love to, yes.
Okay. There's no structural reason why we wouldn't, like, no, that doesn't make any sense. Like, from a technical standpoint, it makes a lot of sense. So without committing to
Yes.
our time that we're not necessarily able to vouch for. Okay.
Yeah.
So what actually needs to happen in Fedora then? Is this a change? Is this like a system-wide change proposal? Does infrastructure need to be written? Like, what would actually need to happen?
So I think it sounds like I should file a change proposal for Fedora 45.
One other thing on my mind, and this is, I think, related but distinct. Does Fedora have build provenance coming at any point? I know there was a discussion about reproducible builds, but
You were using a keyword, John. Explain build provenance.
so build provenance, the total composite of the build with cryptographic verification of all the internal components spitting out the result. Your bin utils or whatever. And I saw a no from Fabio. So, okay, well, that would be another dream from my end, because what build provenance would enable for a product security team is for us to get code level information about a flaw and then sort of propagate that through based on the build, the attestation files. Sorry, it's earlier than I'm used to being up.
Yeah, I think what we have is permanent build logs and checksums, but not down at like the per file or object level.
Okay. Yeah.
Probably, if you want to file a ticket for that too, I think that would be. Is that a thing that we can get through Conflux? Because that is one of the things that we are working on bringing online for optional use in the Fedora space.
I believe Conflux supports it. Yeah.
Okay, so there might be a future in which that's possible.
Just a side question, is Conflux going to be the main builder for Fedoras in Fedora 45 or some future Fedoras, maybe?
No, no. So, Mosh, please give me an accuracy check here. Where we are right now is that we are slowly moving from Pagure to 4GO, and Conflux, like as of last week, just got 4GO support. So, as we move from Pagure distgit to 4GO distgit, it will be possible for us to start doing some things in an official capacity with Conflux, but there has not been any community-driven motion to move to Conflux. There is a motion to make it available as one of the tools that contributors can use.
Yep, that's about right. And I would be even a little bit blunter, but until Conflux proves itself as a usable service that is available and has high availability, we will not use it as a default build system. But as Brandon mentioned, the opportunity to do things, eventually build RPMs by the end of the year, I dream, but...
So it would be like an opt-in builder for the package maker.
Yeah, and I think it would be accurate to say that container build use cases are probably the more compelling ones right now. And so if PURLs plus containers is part of this, then maybe that's where we get the second feature that John was asking about. Like maybe that's the first step forward. Provenance, that's the word. Okay, well, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I was correct. And one more note, we are going to migrate from the tool I showed you to the new one, and this one will be based mostly on package URLs. Currently, it is in testing. It's based on Atlas, but the command or the command we used is trust Perl, and basically I'm trying to so I will clear my history because there was a token there, and if I grab the terminal right now, basically this is what we will be doing. So if I go to trust Perl and open SSH, it will base the Perls matching for OpenSSH. So this is how we want to approach the affects filing for internal tooling. So I think this sets right into it, like this idea of Perls for Fedora. Because as you can see, this is what we will be doing, and based on this, we will be adding affects. It's not like fully working yet, but this is the idea. And this should be, I think, open sourced, if I'm not mistaken, but I would need to check. So this is from the technical point of view of this issue.
Good, Fabio.
Okay, so just from my perspective, this is kind of validating that you're already using this internal in Red Hat, and sounds like it would be a good idea to work on the same thing in Fedora, basically. So the only doubts I had about proposing this for Fedora was if Red Hat was using something different, then it probably wouldn't have made much sense. But if you're using the same thing, then that makes more sense, I think.
And here is the repository. Okay, Lucas shared it already. Okay.
Carl, go ahead.
Hey, y'all. So y'all mentioned that Red Hat is already using the PURL thing. Is that where is that stored at? Is that already in RPM metadata that packagers could query to see what it looks like? Or is it stored external to the RPMs?
That's the question for the tooling team and the guys who are in charge of the data, because we are mostly analysts here, so we work with the data, not how the data are stored and how they work. So yeah, I cannot answer your question now.
Fair enough.
If Carl downloads the GitHub project that Lukas just shared, will he be able to do the thing that, well, will he be able to answer his own question? Or
This tool, we have, I think, 2 people from our team are testing it. I'm just aware that it exists, but it's not like, because not many projects are fully onboarded into it, so we cannot use it on our day-to-day basis. So we use the legacy like tool, but this is like the goal which we want to use in the future. So if, yeah, might be in the Trustify, yeah. Like there is the whole pipeline behind it, but I'm not very keen on, like, yeah. But I can get you the contacts to people who might know better.
Yes, please.
okay, so it sounds like at the conclusion of this call, Fabio is going to file a system-wide change proposal in Fedora or 45. What other follow-ups do we need to do? Because we had this experience at the end of last year where we were talking about NVIDIA driver module support, and Neil took it upon himself to file a Jira ticket, but then we didn't know that he had done that. And so like months went by where it didn't get attention. I don't want to have a repeat of that. So Fabio, if you do the thing in the Fedora space, what would you need from product security, or what would you want to, how would you like to have an interaction with product security so that we take advantage of it as it progresses?
That's a good question. I think at some point it would be interesting, like we'll probably see some, what's the English word? Not full adoption across 100% of packages immediately, but like this part is done, then this part is done, then this part is done. Mm-hmm. And it might be helpful to see, like, we've covered like Python packages, and then start seeing, start getting feedback whether that actually helps for Python advisories. And going forward, more things can be covered.
Okay, so Lukash in the chat said, please send us a link once the thing is filed. On the product security side, is there anything else that you all need or would like to have as a follow-up?
I think from our side, we have to file something internally so that our tooling team knows to go and ingest this data. So that change proposal to Fedora would be useful for us. Other than that, I can't think of anything. Mikhail, do you have anything?
I shared a link to the guidelines for Red Hat for package URLs. I think there are a lot of information there. And also the point of contact from manager from the tooling team would be Jesse. And please, Carl, ping me or contact us if the question is not answered in this document, because I think it's very long and detailed, but I'm not like fully on board with what's there. But it looks like it might answer all of your questions. And if not, this is the point of contact for the manager from the tooling team who was in charge when this change was rolled out. And if we need some follow-up, I will ping the tooling team directly, and I will put this into the Fedora requirements doc to track this, because that would be, I think, the best place to have this tracked in. And yeah, I think that's all from our side. And like I said, if you have any questions, you can ping us directly or secalert@redhat.com and ask for me or John, and it will be redirected to us.
All right. This is weird. We don't usually like reach a happy conclusion with like 10 minutes to spare. So is there anything that we didn't talk about with regard to this topic that we should have? Yeah, go ahead, John.
So I touched on it briefly, but I'll say it again since it wasn't touched on much. Data production matters a lot. So if any of you are involved with CV disclosure in projects you work on, or if you know people, talk to them, get them to start adding this data to CV records. It's allowed at this point. It's not just allowed, it's part of the spec. And if you need help, feel free to reach out about that too. There's basically no tooling that supports it today, but if you're okay with either rolling your own tools or packing some JSON files, you can just put this data in directly, and that helps everyone throughout the entire pipeline.
Nice. All right. Well, I think we're at a good stopping point. Does anybody have anything else for today? Amazing. All right. Product security team, thank you for coming today. Fabio, thanks for bringing this topic up. Sounds like we've got a winner. I will talk to you all later.
Thanks, everyone.